I think the real dividing line today is not really between right and left. It's more between, do you believe in freedom or do you not believe in freedom? Do you trust people to be able to run their own lives without needing the scaffolding of the nanny state and all these finger waggers and all these censors trying to control what we can see and hear and do? Or do you think that people need that control? Do you think people need all that intervention in their lives? I think that's the new dividing line. It's a question of how far do you trust ordinary people to be free? And it's unfortunate that most of the left now doesn't trust ordinary people to be free, thinks we need laws and regulations and controls to tell us what to do. A few people on the right still do trust ordinary people, so that's quite interesting. But I think we're seeing new alliances emerging between right and left coming together, saying that we've had enough of this kind of nanny statism.
Yeah, look, I couldn't agree with you more, Brendan. And I think one of the differences there between the left and the right is that the right tends to hope for tradition to do the work of guiding people to the right path, while the left tends to look for the law to do that, which is a much harder instrument.
Exactly, and the left is now utterly pro-state in a really quite depressing way. The left seems to view it, the more it's lost faith in ordinary people, the more it's warmed to the state, and it sees the state as the solution to every problem in society. You know, if there's hatred or crime or you know, people getting a bit fatter than they ought to be, or people drinking too much, their instant response is, let's call on the state to sort this problem out. So they have this extremely authoritarian knee-jerk instinct which says that every social problem has to have a solution that comes from the top down. And of course all that generates is more authoritarianism, less freedom, and a really censorious climate. The real way to measure someone's moral worth these days, which is a terrible thing to say, is what is their point of view on freedom? Where do they stand on liberty? Because that tells you what people think about humanity itself. Do they trust people to have the freedom to say and hear everything and to make up their minds for themselves about the moral value of those ideas? Or do they not trust them and instead think that the state or some other body should control what we can say, hear and do? That's the dividing line now. It's no longer left and right. It's no longer are you free market or anti-free market. It's where do you stand on trusting people to exercise their moral autonomy. That, I think, is the great thing about alliances between people like Spiked and Reason. We come from different sides of the old-fashioned spectrum, but we share a belief in people's ability to exercise freedom on their own.